Aesthetic. You know, that thing where someone sees it and then they say how this is them, and then you have to say my guy. That's a video the PSP scrolls with reverb mall music titled Nutty Wave. I'm sure we all at one point fell into the rabbit hole of aesthetic culture, listening to our reverb and slow music with added white noise to bring in that ambience while wearing our hoodies or shirts with random Japanese words on it. I get it. If you're still into that style, shameless sponsor, but check out Public Space and use this code if any of this aesthetic is something you're looking for. Well, shameless sponsor over. I for one got into the rabbit hole of gaming aesthetics. Lots of jungle music and PS1 style games. It just hits so hard for me to see both of these combined. It really just has this comfy feel, even if I never grew up with the PS1. More of an N64 guy, even if that system has like 10 good games at most. Just accept the N64 library was shit, and the games that are good are really good and carry the weight. Come on guys, let's be real. On a tangent, but going back to what I was saying, I decided to compile some games together that I feel have a very nice aesthetic to them. If this does well, maybe I can make a follow-up, because trust me, I found many games I enjoyed but had to narrow it down to these few. I want to say as well, I have no real order in what I talk about, so hopefully this video doesn't feel all over the place because of it. But I think it's time to put this aesthetics in my veins and take a fun aesthetic trip. Street Fighter always seems to nail its looks and aesthetics with each release. From the menu to the music, just goddamn the music. I for one want to talk about a specific Street Fighter, one that I spent more time playing over the other games. It's a pretty obscure one at that. That Street Fighter game is none other than Pocket Fighter itself. I get it, it may not be hardcore enough with its chibi look, but trust me, this game is amazing. The animations are just so creative and poppy, and I love how wacky this game can be. I mean, look at these attacks. I love how there's even a bunch of references here to other games made by Capcom, Mega Man being the most noticeable one for me. This game just oozes so much charm. The stages also have a lot going on in them and look really good. I really just find this one to be the best looking game in the series, to be honest. And that may get some hate, but I'm standing very strong by that opinion. It really hits the anime feel and turns it up to 10. I would highly recommend checking this game out, even if it's never going to be good for competitive. It's still a really good Street Fighter game. It's even on the new Capcom Fighter collection, so we now have a modern way to play it. Pocket Fighters will always hold a special place in my heart, even if it's nostalgic mostly. But moving on to another fighting game. Slap Happy Rhythm Busters is another game that oozes aesthetic. I really think this old 3D model games like this are my favorite style, which is crazy to think about how back in the day, games with this style were hated for not being realistic or for babies. Now these are seen as timeless and highly regarded as the right move to do back in the day. I still find it funny though, even gamers today are still hating on games that are cartoonish in nature. It's as if we just never learned. Slap Happy Rhythm Busters is a fighting game with a neat rhythm mechanic with the finisher moves in the game. These finishers require you to do the music minigame to deal more damage to your opponent. It's not the biggest music focus, but it's still an interesting thing they did. This game never left Japan though, so lots of Americans never experienced this. Looking at the characters, I can say first off, there's quite a lot for a PS1 fighting game, and all of them have a very unique look to them. I really can't find anything I hate about these characters. The only nitpick I can think of is this is just Chun-Li. How did they not get sued? The background's not gonna lie, give me Hi Puffy Yumi vibes, and I'm curious how many people just went, oh, I remember that show.
I'm your #1 fan.
Hey yo, Discord mod moment? Gorumen is a game that was released on the PSP back in 2007 and then later on got a 3DS port that is pretty bad compared to the other two versions. Finally though, The Steam version is here, and makes this the best way to play. This game is quite fun to traverse around and see the cute aesthetic environments. I really love the combat in this, with how you can use your drill and even do charge attacks and whatnot. Combat does start off slow with a very basic attack, but later down the line you can do stuff like this. You can even buy upgrades for your drill that end up changing the look every time you upgrade. You even have an elemental add-ons for your drill, from fire to ice and then finally electric. There's also the music rhythm mechanic that is useful for getting critical hits and raising your damage meter. Getting hit will lower your bar, incentivizing you to do damageless runs if possible, which can either be easy or really hard. I also will say this, game has probably one of the most satisfying dodges in any game I've ever played. It's just so fluid and fast. There's a few other things in the game that are satisfying, like how it feels to break stuff with your drill, or when a bunch of coins fall and you pick them up. It just gets my dopamines kicking every time. You can use these coins for upgrades, so they do serve a functional purpose. You can even unlock costumes for Perrin, but some of these requirements can be hell. There's a lot of costumes though, so there's bound to be something you like. I think it's time to dive into the story. I won't go into full detail to save time, but here's the rundown. Perrin ends up going to live with her grandpa because her parents had to leave for work for a long time. She arrives in the town where she's told has no children, which is probably for the best because not even a day here, an adult is clearly hitting on this young child.
Hey yo, Discord mod moment, bro, what the fuck?
You end up finding this young girl in town as she's being attacked by a dog, but surprise, surprise, she ends up being a monster instead of a human girl. She decides to reward you for helping her by taking you to the monster world, where you also learn monsters can only be seen by children and not adults. You have this fun time lapse of you getting to know everyone, but then Monster World gets attacked by the Phantoms and the main bad guy here, Prince. He stole their furniture, so now they can't live, which is a weird thing to steal, but go off, I guess. You decide to stop him and save the Monster World and bring back their furniture. The story is again fine, serviceable at best, but I really just care more about the gameplay. There's two endings, and this all depends on if you bring all the furniture back or not, but I won't really be going over the endings. One thing this game was advertised heavily on release was the amazing voice cast. This was a big deal in a lot of the press releases, and after looking to the voice cast, I can see why they advertised it. Some of these people either were really big at the time, or now are more well known. I'll go over a few I find interesting, starting with Quentin Flynn, known for his roles as Raiden, Axel, and the two cats from Blinks. They also had Robin Atkins, the voice of Luxord and Travis Touchdown, but his more important role being Academic Dr. Cockroach and Party Dr. Cockroach. I know, crazy, they got the man himself. Next up is Justin Shinkaro, who is the voice of fucking Charlie Brown. Amber Hood is next, and she voices the main character in the game, but her most well-known role for me is her role in Ape Escape 3 as Natalie, but her biggest role being Shorty 2 and Groupie Fish 2 from Shark Tale the video game.
Wait a minute, Groupie Fish 2? Hey yo, what the fuck?
Now, if you haven't heard of these voice actors, then for sure you will know these next two. Starting off, we have Steve Blum, with most recent works being in Neon White and Ramu from the new Chocobo racing game. He's however mostly known for a lot of children's cartoons such as The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy, My Life as a Teenage Robot, and Digimon Avengers 2000. I will say for a lot of anime fans in America, his biggest role for them would be none other than Tom from Toonami.
Racism still exists.
His two gaming roles I find interesting are Yellow Monkey from Ape Escape 3, and his most life-changing role yet, Whitey in LeFrog from Flush Away. Finally, we have the most well-known voice actor who basically voiced in almost everything you can think of, Tara Strong. Like, the fact they got her is crazy, but they managed to do it. They managed to get the woman most known for her role as the baby from the Minions movie. How the hell will they ever go up from here? Well, I highly recommend Guruman if you're into hack and slash platformers, especially anime themed ones, since this just oozes anime influences. From how her eyes can be seen on top of her hair, or how the pigtails are just not even attached to anything, and the big bulgy eyes. Like I said, it's a nice aesthetic pleasing game worth checking out, and maybe I'll do a full detail review of this one day if people want it. The king of aesthetically pleasing low poly 3D comes from the game known as Mega Man Legends or Mega Man 64. I mean, just look at these models and textures and how everything moves. Just look at this, it's perfect and I love it. It's also so loved, in fact, that many game devs try to mimic this style because it really is just that pleasing to the eyes. Even in some of the most colorless areas in this game, you can't help but love it. And when you do head out to the areas that have color, those colors pop. I will say I grew up with the N64 version of the game, which is supposed to be the worst version, but I never minded this port all that much. If there's one thing though I feel this game did the best out of every game on the system, is character design. Even from the basic townsfolk to these Lego guys, these character designs are so iconic and beautiful. The way everything moves as well just gives me so much pleasure for my eyes. Even when these characters are in other games, the design still holds so well. I can't say where this game falls flat is control-wise, but it's not the worst controls I've ever played, but it's not the best either. When I was younger as well, I never could get past the first boss, and when you died, you had to repeat the whole start all over again. It didn't stop me from playing the starting area out the ass though. Our cousin came over though, and he finally beat the first boss for us so we could progress, and in return, I had to let him fight Dark Link once I got to him in Ocarina of Time. I didn't keep my side, and I fought him anyways. I was an asshole child, I know. Well, time to do a brief rundown of Mega Man Legends' story. Volnut and Roll are known as diggers who look for quantum refractors, which is what the city uses for power. Also, the world is flooded, but I mean, just drink the water, it'll go down. They end up crash landing on an island where they meet the air pirates who are trying to find treasure buried in the island. You run around and stop them and all that good stuff. Again, minor story, not going to go into full detail. But overall, Mega Man Legends is a beautiful experience for Mega Man fans, and I highly recommend checking this out. Rip to Mega Man Legends 3 though. Yeah, this has to be the most hyped intro for a game. You hear the name yelled and you see the skating and you know this is gonna be a ride. Even if skating in real life is seen as uncool, I'm sure Jet Set Radio made everyone at least go out and try to skate. I for one did and busted my ass bad and never did it again. Jet Set Radio really couldn't have come at the right time. Giving that free rebellious lifestyle and look, going from the 90s to the 2000s, this game showed it wasn't stopping the loud in your face 90s trend, but unlike the 90s being loud for the sake of being loud, Jet Set Radio is setting out to be loud with a message behind that. Leaving your mark around the city and showing you're above the social norms set by society. This plays into the Jet Set Radio's main gameplay being graffiti art. Graffiti at the time was seen as a rebellious act by teens and at worst vandalism. Now people see it more as a work of art to the point some cities even pay graffiti artists to make murals for them. The act of graffiti in this game is just vandalism though. It's cool vandalism, but it's still vandalism. Jet Set Radio is probably the first time I ever saw graffiti art actually look good, especially when most art I ever see was a swastika or a shitty drawn name that couldn't be read. The cel-shaded art style with these thick outlines plus how all the colors pop is just so satisfying. This game really shines with its look in the night stages when neon lights cover the area. Plus, the music just brings this all together. Hideki Naganuma, when he's not jacking off the Lugia, is probably one of the most known music artists for this game, while others such as Richard Jacquez, David Soul, Toronto, and BB Rice helped with some of the tracks. The American version of the game even got 2 new songs, one of them featuring Rob Zombie. and it's really out of place. But it's Rob Zombie, so who cares? This was actually pretty interesting that the PAL and NTSC versions got content that Japan didn't get till later. 2 maps and 2 new songs that Japan didn't get to experience till around a year after the game came out. If you needed more reason why this game fits that aesthetic in-your-face screw-the-man attitude, Sega hosted a contest called Graffiti is Art, where people sent in graffiti art. Sega picked 5 people to fly out to San Francisco to do the challenge, and the winner would win $5,000. Well, the mayor at the time, Willie Brown, tried to shut it down, but Sega was able to keep the contest going, giving the fans a view of Sega winning against the man. This was probably the best marketing strategy they could have done. The only thing, though, I will say I always found weird about this game was how bad the cops are. These guys bring fucking attack helicopters and tanks after you for spray painting. I did see a video once that tried to say they do this because before the game came out, they had a really bad train attack where Shoko Asahara had people attack a train station with sarin gas, but I think that's a big reach for why the cops act like this in a game, and pretty disrespectful to even compare these two in general. But yeah, the cops are crazy in this game. It's a weird game. What do you expect? If you haven't experienced Jet Set Radio, then by all means, try it out. It's on Steam. It's pretty cheap. If not, emulate it.
Yeah, we're riding high in a smooth stream of supersonic sound. And I'm your captain and DJ, Professor K. Jet Set Radio!
Res is what happens when you take music rhythm, shrooms, and flying through space while shooting things down and made a game out of it. The visuals are mostly wireframe and very low poly models, but it brings everything together for this nice space future look. Easily can see this game being advertised in a mall and someone calling it the game of the future. There's boss fights as well in this game, and if you're interested in them, overall, Res is the fun way to try psychedelics without taking any. I recommend this for the futuristic music alone. Moving on, we have Dolphin Blue, and this is what you would get if Echo the Dolphin decided, screw it, we need guns, and contacted the Metal Slug creators and told them he needed their help. Dolphin Blue seriously kicks ass and looks amazing while doing it. Combining beautiful 3D models and art with the 2D animated sprites, it's crazy how well this game just pulls the look off. Everything is so charming in this, and what other game can you use a dolphin to shoot at people? All the sound effects and guys flying on screen after you mow them down just gets your heart racing so fast. The OST accompanying this as well fuels the energetic gameplay very well. This game really hits peak aesthetic when you go underwater and get this nice tinted blue over everything and see the vast ocean with broken 3D model ships in the background. I've never played much of Metal Slug, but this game easily makes me want to try more. If you have never played this, I highly recommend it because just look how beautiful and frantic this game is. It's worth a shot to at least try out.
Tina! Cute! Every Pan-Pan's heartthrob! Mr. Ball! Looking good today in that red headgear. Back! Back is what we like to call nap happy. But when he wakes up, watch out! Sneak! What a clown! He baffles everybody with his wacky style. Jaw! Unstoppable and vicious! He's a killer! Just as ferocious as he looks! Ow!
Okay, let me defend myself on this one. Yes, the characters in the opening movie are ugly as all sin. Like, really, really ugly. How can this be anything close to the other games for aesthetically pleasing to the eyes? I'll explain. Ignoring all of the horrible anime opening bullshit, whatever it is, Pin Tri-Salon is actually kind of nice to look at. Mostly being the levels. It's one of the few games that actually brings color to snowy areas. The character models from the back, at least mixed with the landscapes and backgrounds, look quite interesting. You even have a good variety of snowy areas, so a lot of tracks don't feel the same at all, which is hard when most of the color you have to work with is white. You even have a pinball table track. I see where Waluigi got his inspiration from. Understandable. The biggest issue that ruins this game is the blackface. I see why this never came to America. A lot of the loading screens as well reminded me of these old weird Game Informer ads. I think that's another reason why I like this aesthetic a lot. Is this game going to be for everyone though? No, but I do think this game does a good job at what it set out to do, be a wacky, fun little racing game. But speaking of snow racing games, I have two more for you. Snowboard Kids 1 and 2 are Atlus's attempt at the racing genre, and I would say they achieved what they wanted. I'm not into snowboarding games, but having a Mario Kart style one ended up being really fun. The whole game has you going down a huge slope to then be carried back to the top and then repeat till the laps are done. Even has this nice animation for when you hit the bottom and head back up. Personally, I think Snowboard Kids 1 falls flat with the variety since only 3 stages aren't snow ones. One being grassland, the second being a desert area, but then the final one being a whole slope through a place in Japan with cherry blossoms everywhere, and it's probably one of the best tracks in the game. I really can't tell you though if I love or hate the character models, but I can say I love the 2D art for sure. It's just the idea behind the 2D art I feel was just too complicated to carry over to 3D. You ended up having these really nice designs just to have it be ruined by these. I still think in motion these characters look fine, and they're not the worst models I've seen for the system, but they're also not even average. Snowboard Kids 2, however, improves mostly on the level variety, and the characters did get redesigns plus some new faces, but the models, man, they're still looking pretty bad. In motion, they look fine, and we even have a full story mode with cutscenes of our characters doing stuff. The levels in Snowboard Kids 2 have you going underwater, getting shrunken down to then race down a kid's toy room. You even race a dinosaur. Again, I feel bad if I spoil everything this game offers, so I can easily say Snowboard Kids 2 is massively better, but I still love both for the fun designs and the aesthetic they bring. Recommend trying out both if you want.
Yeah, I guess the Mets turn. Yeah. I still don't get why, like, we need this many waters for your family, bro.
Auto Modelista has to be one of the most beautiful racing games I've ever laid eyes on. This is true peak aesthetic for racing. This game uses cel shaded and does it so well. Seeing the Honda Type R, the Mazda RX-8, and the Dodge Viper in this style never made these cars look better. If you're not sold yet, then here's that anime car everyone loves, even though it's just a overhyped Toyota Corolla. The amount of customizations though in this game is amazing, from body kits to colors to even what your license plate says. You can spend a lot of time here just making that amazing dream car you've always wanted. This game really shines when it's in motion, and the fact I barely ever see this gameplay used in a lot of those chill trapping videos, especially from this channel, is insane. The visuals feel so perfect for those types of videos. Just going at high speeds in this game and feeling the energetic music while looking at the visuals. I really think this is my favorite racing game by far. It started to go up in price though, since people are hearing more about it, so act fast if you want it at a better price. I highly recommend this game if you're into racing games, because this is just true peak racing aesthetic. Mach-N X is Red Steel if Red Steel was good. This is another game made by Atlus and probably one of the darker games on the list. It has this nice horror atmosphere to it, and the music just blends well with the visuals. You run around in first person and swing a sword, all that good first person stuff. I think this game is really beautiful, especially when areas have that tint of blue from the lights and aren't afraid to get more creative. The enemies in this game also look great, which is expected from the company that gave us Mothman and Penis Mobile. One thing I love is how this game isn't afraid to get trippy, and when it does, it gets really trippy. The levels also have a pretty good amount of variety and all make sure to pop even in the darkest of areas. The biggest issue that does bring this game down though is the really bad voice acting.
Even for something that's worldwide, there must be limitations. This must be a huge organization to have so many people here.
We will soon live in a time of suffering.
What kind of fucking McDonald's has a message? What do I say? I want a burger tomorrow?
Overall, a nice dark cyberpunk feeling aesthetic and worth trying out. Stretch Panic is one of the weirdest games on this list, but that doesn't stop it from being really creative. You play as this girl who uses the demon hand to grab things and pull them to damage them. It's pretty basic combat, but somehow manages to stay interesting. The best way I can describe this game is that it's like a dream. The hub area is really cool, having this hand-drawn scribble look to it, almost as if what you're seeing is a faded memory. The bosses in this area are weird and wacky, but great. I honestly can't think of any boss in the game I hated design-wise. For the most part, this game revolves around you going into levels, but the main goal is to beat all of the bosses. This game is also pretty short if you know what you're doing. The best thing this game has as well are these. Best game on the list right here. I mean, what more do you fucking need? Stretch Panic is worth trying out if you guys want. Speaking of games that feel like dreams, this is LSD Dream Emulator. It's a walking simulator with the game being designed around the creator's dreams he kept in a dream journal. This was a PS1 game that never left Japan, and hard copies of this game can go for around $850 to over $1,000. The best way to play this now is either on PS3 since it's on the Japanese PSN store, or you emulate it. Looking at this game now, this nonsense nature and how mysterious this game still is makes this such a fun pick. I do think graphics look ugly as sin, even for a PS1 standards, but I also love how ugly they look at the same time, since I can even remember in my dreams how fucked up everything looks. I remember once I even had a dream about the new Pokemon games before they came out, and Articuno had a new form, and it literally was this, but it was a robot, and it was blue. This game is played by you walking into stuff to make things happen, but usually what will occur is you teleporting to a new area. You can have different types of dreams shown by this chart at the end, but I don't think these really change anything. There's also this guy, or he's mostly called the Hat Man, which is not to be confused with the Shadow Person Hat Man that you get from Benadryl. He's probably the one thing you want to avoid, because if he gets you, you lose your ability to revisit dreams. This game was such a hit, it inspired games like this, so it's safe to say this game was a success. Out of all the mysteries though in this game, there's one I really want answers to, and it's what the hell are these supposed to be? So I'm not sure why, but this game features porn in this Asian girl a lot. I don't know who she is or what's the point of it, but these textures only appear apparently in the violence district. Which that area is home to car crashes and murder/suicides, so these sexual images add more to the mystery. I heard a rumor once that these were actual photos of a girl who was murdered and raped, but there's no credibility to these claims at all. My theory at best is man wanted to add porn since it can be seen as a negative in the negative areas. It's still a mystery though why he added porn, but I'll probably never get answers to these mysteries or questions I have. The only video I could find of this area is this guy's playthrough, so I'm assuming getting these textures is really rare. With that being said, try out LSD Dream Emulator if you want, it's pretty interesting. Aquatic Ambience, probably one of the best songs from Donkey Kong Country. A song that made the water level in it actually enjoyable. It's really crazy how much impact this song really brings to the game. Now what if I told you there's a game that is basically Aquatic Ambience if it was a video game? On the surface, this game looks pretty bad. It's basically an RPG / adventure game with gear and other stuff you have to find. The stuff honestly isn't why I'm talking about this. It's when you finally get to do what the name of the game is called, is when this game truly hits peak aesthetic. You see this loading screen just to be dropped into this. This has to be some of the most unique and ahead of its time underwater music I've ever heard. These songs are just begging for some breakcore remixes. There's just so many good songs in this game, even if the actual game is just this. I swear this music carries it big time. Like, just look. It's crazy just how powerful the music is here. Again, check this out if it looks nice, but at best, the OST is probably worth your time, if anything. Frog Gun is a game where you play as this girl and use a frog as a gun. It's straight to the point, and I like it. This game really gives me Captain Toad vibes. There's a jump button, but jumping won't be the greatest for platforming. The main tool for the game is your frog gun. Not only can you grab enemies and throw them, you can use it to grab walls and pull yourself like a hook shot. The frog also talks, and since he never complains about you using him in such manners, I guess he's fine with it. You maneuver what feels more like obstacle courses over actual platform levels. You do have boss fights, and they're fine for what they are. There's also hats you can buy, so if you play TF2, this game is for you. The story is just you setting off to save your parents after they didn't come back from an expedition. Overall, not much to really say besides this game being really good for what it sets out to do. Worth playing if you're into platformers and PS1 aesthetics. What more can I say about Nights besides it's how Chows came to be, it's also where Sonic was able to be controlled in 3D space for the first time. It's just a very awesome game from Sega, and I love it for that. There's a reason why when I play Sonic Adventure and see Nights just doing whatever this is, I still just smile. The gameplay is about you flying through rings and destroying stuff. It's crazy, it's Superman 64, but good. There's bosses and things like that, and they're fine for what they are. It still gets me though that Nights technically is an anti-hero and wasn't even supposed to be good. He just decided to do it. Nights is also gender neutral since it never establishes if Nights is a boy or a girl. There's also a remake for this one on the Wii, but they made Nights British.
Hey, Will, over here.
And the humans look like this. I highly recommend checking Nights out, especially if you always were that guy who said this when he showed up. Who the fuck is this guy? Dr. Slump is a PS1 game that never left Japan, but the artist known for a very niche anime called Dragon Ball Z worked on this. Interesting enough, some of you probably know who this girl is from this game without ever even playing this. She's appeared in J-Star Victory Plus, and she's also in Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi 3. If you're interested in this game, there's a fan translation of this, but it just seems like a basic adventure game to me. Look-wise though, this is probably one of the nicest anime games on the PS1 in general, and even games now that try this look barely come close. It just shows how good the art style is, even if it's on low poly models like these. With that being said, I think it's time for the final game. The last game is here, and this is a weird one. Katamari Damacy is such a crazy concept when you actually try to explain it to someone. Well, you see, the king, he blew up the constellations and the moon. Then he tried to act like he didn't do it. Then we fixed this by basically committing mass murder and rolling everything up to then launch it into space. He also tells me they love doing this and it's fine. As cute as this game is, my god if you fail a level. One thing I love about Katamari and its aesthetics is just how much stuff is on screen, and even if said stuff is low poly, these worlds really feel lived in no matter where you roll to. The feeling as well from being able to pick things up like socks or small creatures to literal buildings, you really do feel yourself getting bigger with time. It's sad though, after the second game, the creator left and they still continued the franchise, which in turn killed it with an awful iPhone game and releasing the remake of the first game on the same day as Smash. And they barely stocked any stores with the game. This game was rare for a few weeks because of this dumb release plan. I'm also sure because of the failed release, we will never get the remake of the superior sequel, but that's just me ranting. Let's get back to the game. The levels are all a treat, especially the second game when you go underwater and even a whole school. The second game also has a 2-player mode, but it's awful to control, but neat that it's there. It's just neat I can vividly remember some of these stages and how great they are. The music in this series is one of the most interesting in any game ever. You have so many styles and variety to the point there's bound to be something for you in this. It's just insane for a game to have such shitposting music like this. To then hit you with songs like this.
Every day with Lane, 二人で
Angel Rain being my favorite song because this was a song I dedicated to my kitten that passed away. Again, this soundtrack is just godlike. The story as well for the second game being about our king showing his childhood and earning the respect from his strict dad and finding the love of his life isn't needed at all, but I'm so glad it's here. These games really know how to shine and make something feel like home while being as if you're getting robbed at the same time with how chaotic it can be. This is why I feel Katamari Damacy is an aesthetic that I love, and I'll cherish it forever.